Hello, guys. Welcome to the IV Mindset Podcast with me, John Morales. I wanted to tell you guys who I am and what my purpose is serving with this podcast. For the longest of time, I've been wanting to have a platform like this to, express and talk about things that I feel that I talk to my everyday people about. I have clients, I have friends, I have family members, and we all share a common thread of fabric, and that's hard work. But sometimes in that hard work you get caught up with all the other things part of that fabric, such as stress, such as how do I balance my time management, how do I balance the arousals of life, right? There's things that are gonna make you feel really joyful, and there's gonna be things that are gonna make you feel real sad. How can you balance all these things, and what can you do to better yourself? And ultimately, that's what my intentions with this podcast is speak to individuals that I'm going to be co-hosting with, speak with with you guys, people paying attention, and have conversations that mean something, that are going somewhere. So I'm excited about this. This has been something I've been meaning to do for a while. So the fact that I'm able to do it and be comfortable with it has taken some time. I'll be honest. I'll just share some things. I was super camera shy for a long time. Public speaking used to be something that used to make me nervous, and sometimes it still kind of gets me nervous. But it's only when I feel like there's cameras around, or if I'm going to be recorded. Sometimes the thought of me hearing my voice again kind of cringes me a little bit. Not because I'm saying anything wrong, just because it could be weird. I mean, there's times that movie stars don't watch their own movies. I believe Denzel has never watched one of his films, which is outrageous to me because he's done so many great films. But it just comes to show us that sometimes you're wired a different way. Not to compare myself to Denzel, but I'm just saying, like, there's things that you need to get over the fear of, and this is one of my ways to getting over that fear. And I think it's going to be exciting to talk about certain things. Today, kind of wanted to tell you guys the reason for naming my podcast the IV podcast, the IV Mindset Podcast, and I'll give you guys a good explanation of that. So, IV in Roman numerals is 4, and at the gym, in Vivo Strength and Conditioning, that's the gym I own. Just kind of give you guys a little background on who I am. I own a strength conditioning gym in Miami. I work with a multitude of athletes, from NFL guys to MMA guys to baseball guys. But the core of my clientele and my members is regular day-to-day people. And I'm happy to train anybody, because for me, it's not the status that comes with training that person that's on TV. For me, it's also the power of the relationships that we have with these individuals. I think that matters. It's not all about the being. It's not all about the logo, right? It's not about the name that person has. Sometimes, I believe we got to treat each other with respect and understand that we don't have to, always go for those titles. I think the relationships really mean that much, and they really mean more when you make it more. Like someone once told me, less is more. So at my gym, I've been personal training now 9 years. Come January next year, I've been personal training 10 years, which is crazy to think about it now. But I've met so many people throughout the time. I've seen people come and start training with me when they're like really, really young. And now they're like off to college, and they're doing sports. I've had other people train with me and then actually get into the career of personal training because and they saw what I was doing at that time and they wanted to get involved. And a lot of those things are the most gratifying things, is that you see the impact that you have on people without, not necessarily because they told you they've had an impact on you, but you can see by actions and stuff. And I think ultimately that's some of the coolest things you can do, right? And I think that's what we aspire to do. Nipsey Hussle has a quote that says, "The highest act of being human is to inspire other humans." So going back to the IV podcast, I wanted to name it the Flow Podcast because I'm big into sports psychology. I'm big into psychology, and I think that not having the platform, and I think not having the platform is something that can sometimes work against you. But the reason why I wanted to name it the IV is because, opposed to going like by the thought of like doing flow, and flow when it comes to sports psychology, or flow when it comes to, everyday people flow. Flow is a form of it's a theory that goes back way back into psychology. I can actually recommend you guys a book. I'll probably leave it in threads here on the podcast information. And it's a good book because it goes over how can you find flow with the things you do. And for those who are not familiar with what flow is, I'll explain to you what flow is. Flow is when your mental, your spiritual, and the physical all align at once. Now, I'm not trying to sound like anything out of this world, but flow is something that we all feel at some point in our lives. You can find flow in sports. I think it's one of the most common ways that you can find flow. For example, let's say like if you're playing basketball and you're consistently making shots and you're not missing any shots, you're at flow. You found your streak. You're on fire. You feel unstoppable at those moments, and you don't know how you're doing it, but you're just doing it. When you let go of that ball with your fingertips, it's gonna go in. That's finding flow. Flow in other things that you can do besides sports would be like, for example, like when you're really focused and you're getting so many tasks done at once, and you're kind of like, you're like on this hyper focus mode. You're like getting something done, and then you're thinking about this, and you're making everything come together. And next thing you know, 3 hours have passed by, and you haven't even realized like what zone you've been in. You've been in a flow zone, and those are things that sometimes people refer as like the runner's high, and other people find flow with other things. But I think that we can all find flow in everything. All right, we can find flow in our relationships. How many times have you had a good conversation with somebody, and then you're just like, I don't even want this conversation to end. I don't even want this day to end. This conversation is just like elevating. It's going, sky high. And you start feeling good about yourself. You start feeling good about the other person understanding you. And you start thinking about all these things. And I think that when you find this kind of things, you have to understand what's going on at that time. And then being able to be reflective in order for you to have a sort of tape recorder in your head where you can appreciate that moment for what it is and for what it could be in the future, because you can serve that as like an anchor or a lesson or something that you can use moving forward. That's the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because I've had too many good conversations with members, things that have impacted me in my life personally. And I know that when it comes to talking about these things, it can be uncomfortable being able to expose this way of speaking, this way of kind of letting into this world, into my world, my personal space. But I think that's, you sacrifice that land for a better cause. Sometimes you got to put your ego to the side. You got to, not just sometimes, but a lot of times you got to put that to the side and really understand the potential that you have with doing something. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things. I'm going to be talking about sports psychology. I'm going to be talking about day-to-day conversations, topics, and I'm going to have a conversation-based dialogue with the other guests on this podcast. The other person I'm going to have on this podcast is Paris. Me and Paris go way back. I'll talk about that once we get that. But he actually has been a lot of help for me. Going into personal training, he was the first person to actually train me and actually get into a lot of like the training that I was doing at that time, and a lot of things that I still do. I always kind of piggyback off what we did way back then. Some things that I'll dig more into with him once we meet and we have conversations and record it with for you guys. But other things that you can't really put a price on. So that's the cool thing about being able to have a platform like this, that it's just the conversations are able to develop, the thoughts are able to develop. Sometimes I say, like, the crazy thing is that sometimes you're having conversations with people and you're being cut off because you're such in a hurry. So you don't let those conversations develop and you don't let those conversations mature. So that thought process is really kind of cut off in a sentence. Imagine reading a book and someone cuts the book right through the middle, and then you have to read that book. Now you find that book not so interesting, and you're just like, it's harder to remember a book like that, And I think that it's harder to remember conversations when all we do is talk with half points. Then when you really let something develop, you really let those conversations grow, things change, and you're able to understand yourself and the other person better. I find this space really new to me. I'm excited about it. I've decked out this whole room. I still got to put more stuff in this room, but it's gonna be cool. I think that the space and the point in my life for me to kind of do this stuff is dope. And I'm gonna get into a little bit of everything. Talking about business, talking about fitness, talking about health and lifestyle, which all ties in together. And if you want to dive into the business of fitness, I think that there's a lot of things that could be beneficial here. I've seen some people follow me on IG. I don't know if they're following me for this kind of content, or they're following me for the fitness stuff that I put out. But I do find, and what I have found over the years is that, man, what I used to do early in the morning, excuse me. I feel like Lil Wayne when he goes, "Don't worry about what's in don't worry about what's in my cup. It's in my cup." I'm drinking tea, by the way. When I would wake up in the mornings, I would see that, I used to get, when I first opened the gym, I used to wake up really early because I had clients like 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. And that was my schedule then. But what I found is, like, working early is great, because you finish earlier. But at the same time, it was hard to maintain that because you also get really exhausted throughout the day. Like midday was be the time that I would go and dedicate time for me to train. But I'd be tired. I'd be dead by then. So after adjusting certain schedules, there'd be routines that I would stick for me to be motivated to do something. Not saying that I needed the motivation to go work, but it was more like motivation to like stay focused throughout the day, and not really indulge in the I'm so tired going to work attitude, because I hate that attitude. I hate thinking like I'm tired, I'm gonna go to work, and you're kind of dragging ass a bit. I don't like to think that way. So what I would do is I would wake up in the morning and I would listen to a podcast, just like I'm doing now. I would listen to songs that I really enjoyed, or I would listen to an audiobook. And in doing that, I would grab small little details of those audios and those podcasts, and I would actually use them as quotes. And those quotes would go on my board at the gym. I would actually write the quotes. And those quotes, now what I started seeing is that since I'm posting it on my Instagram so early. I would put like, let's say it's 5 a.m. I put 5 a.m. I'll take a picture of the gym, and then I put the quote that I put. I would see that a lot of people were resonating with those kind of quotes, and then it'd be like, man, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you wake up so early to go do this. It's like, listen, dude, it's not that I love waking up at that time. It's just it's what I have to do, and these quotes and this kind of mindset is going to allow me to be disciplined. So I look forward for those quotes too, because those quotes will allow me to kind of have a basis of something I'm going to follow throughout the day. And that's something that helped me out. And I encourage you guys to find your routine with what you do, but those are little routines that I would do that would help me out. And so getting that feedback, I realized that I was like, okay, I might be onto something. I might just share a clip that I want to share on, an interview that I watched or a book that I'm reading, and I started realizing a lot of people want that kind of that style of content, and I think the reason for that is because you gravitate what you put out, and that's what I was putting out. So I'm gravitating those kind of people that think that way, and ultimately, my gym has become that. Everybody that goes there has a certain mindset, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the trainers that are there because they've adapted and adapted this mindset, but applied it to their own principles and morals of their lives. And I think that's ultimately something that's going to serve a bigger purpose as humans. I'm going to make this podcast very frequently. Every week I might drop 2 episodes. This is my first episode. It's going to be this format. If you guys like it, guys, please share. It means the world to me for you guys to put it, to really expose it and show me that, give me some feedback. Tell me what kind of conversations you guys want to have. Tell me if you guys want to hear it, on your way to work. And are you listening to it on your way to work, at the gym? Where is the settings that you're listening to this? I think this is a good feedback for me because I can also wake up early and put it out for you guys to listen to. I think it's going to be a good relationship that I'm going to have with you guys. And I'm super excited. I am. I haven't been excited about something like this and since I've opened the gym, because it's always, for me, it's the creator in me. I love to create. I love to be able to have good conversation. And this is what I'm passionate about. And, I read a quote and it says, you don't have to be good at what you're passionate about. And that meant a lot to me. That resonated with me because when I first thought about getting the camera, getting the mics, getting all the things that we needed to get for podcasting, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm good in this style of format of conversation. But after reading that made sense. You could be passionate about singing and not have the most beautiful voice. So it is what it is, So, guys, thank you for this. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And I'll speak to you guys next time. Deuce.